Hi, welcome back to the Always Right podcast. I'm author Karisa DeLay.
And I'm author Jaime Vendera, and this is going to be a fun episode because we're asking each other
We're
questions.
interviewing each other.
Yes. So,
Hi, welcome to my podcast, Jaime.
all right, welcome to my podcast, Karissa. You got different glasses on.
What?
I just realized you got different glasses on.
Yes, and I changed my hair.
You did. That's crazy. I changed my hair too. I covered up all the gray with this hat, this toboggan.
Well, so when we film multiple episodes in a day here on the podcast, I have to somewhat change in between each episode. So when I'm looking at them before I edit them, I know which one's which.
Yeah,
And that
because
they're
you
not.
know you're not going to get me to do it. I'm too lazy.
I have
Wait a minute.
before. I've got you to change your shirt and stuff.
All right, there we go. No,
Ooh.
you have.
Is that hair or is that a black shirt?
That you never know with me.
So
All right.
often when we have authors on, we ask them some, just kind of off the wall questions, not just as, just general, like, random questions. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool if we could ask each other these questions. So we don't have to ask each other all of these questions, but we can go back and forth and kind of ask each other stuff that we would typically ask a guest author. So who wants to go first?
It's up to you. Are we going to ask all the same questions back and forth? Or are we going to go back?
No, we can throw it around. We could throw a question out. Like you ask me a question, and you respond in the same way, and then I'll ask you a question, and then I'll respond. Yeah.
All right.
So let's go age before
Beauty. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and say it. I say it all the time.
Okay.
You are 56, right? No. Okay. If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be and why?
Robert Langdon.
Why?
Well, so this is Dan Brown's, and he's got a new book coming out, by the way. But I would like to have an interview with Dan Brown's character, Robert Langdon, and just talk to him about some of the things that he's learned, some of the adventures he's been on. He's in several books, and he's coming back in this new one. But I don't know, the journey that he takes and the quick-wittedness that he does. And, he's not some kind of like ninja at anything, but he survives a lot of experiences in these books that, most people probably wouldn't have, but it'd be kind of cool to talk to someone like that. Did you think I was going to talk? I was going to say, who did you think I was going to say?
I figured you're going to pick somebody from Canvas.
Oh, one of my own books?
Yeah.
No, well, I guess if it was for my own books, I would probably want to sit down with the devil in Crystal Gate. I won't say the devil's name, but the character that plays the devil, I would probably want to sit down with that person. Just because of what that character goes through to come to where they may have to make a decision in the end, or they have free will this whole time and the choices that they had to make. So, yeah, that would probably, if it was my own book, it would be the devil.
If it was my own book, it'd probably be Illendale from Age of the Sigil, because he's this like eons old wizard who's more like a ghost, who's kind of
now, especially since it's taking so long for you to write
the next one. Yeah, he's so, but it's ironic because if I chose other character, it would probably be the King of the Silver River out of the Shannara books by Terry Brooks.
I knew it'd be a Shannara
series. Yeah, because he's one of these eons old fairies who's in contact with God, which the word in the void, and that is kind of like the God and the devil, over the earth. And so he's one of these ancient creatures that's good, and he helps all of these people along the way. Because I'd want to know, what came first? Were demons already there? Were they behind the forbidding way back when? Did elves always exist? I have all these questions I'd ask this guy. Or this.
If you're looking at it historically, the magic itself has always existed, but humans learn to tap into it later.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like a barrier, and there's magic, and then as humans evolve, they learn to use certain tools to tap into magic that's always existed in the universe. But that's another podcast.
Yep.
All right. So, if you could describe your ideal writing environment, what does it look like, sound, and smell like?
Oh, it's just I don't really think I have an ideal one. I can write anywhere, but for me, it's curling up on a chair just with an iPad with a keyboard. I don't think about smells or anything. I get so lost in the story. You have
Do you have a
another
drink
question.
next to you? Do you have
I,
like,
I I usually, if I'm writing fantasy, if I'm reading or writing fantasy, I have a bowl of nuts, little cheese squares, pieces of
I thought that's when you were
jerky.
reading fantasy.
That's what I do when I write it too.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Because I know
because
you've
I don't
said
I'm
that
so
multiple times.
stuck with that from Terry, like, and I don't write a lot of scenes like that. But I mean, like, they're out and they're traveling through the woods and the forests and into the caves, hiding from the dragon, and I like to eat, so I'm always thinking about what dried bread and meats do they have on them, and I'll even get ginger ale sometime, thinking ale. They went to
Mhm.
get some ale,
I like
so
ginger ale.
yeah.
But, side note, do you like Verner's or do you like Canada Dry?
I think I just grew up having Vernors around here. I like Canada Dry, but I never really had it a lot,
I
so I
love
couldn't even
Canada Dry.
I couldn't tell you
Verner's
the
burns
difference.
my throat.
Which one does?
Verner's?
Burns your throat?
Yes, it's like so strong.
I don't, maybe I'm just used to it. I haven't had it for a while, but very rarely have I had Canada Dry.
Hmm. Interesting. All right. So if it was me, for my writing environment, I typically, so when I wrote Crystal Gate and Four Rivers, I did a lot of it in my bed, sitting there up at late at night with my iPad and just writing. Especially with Crystal Gate, I wrote it very proficiently, like time wise, but I was nursing babies in between. Or
Hmm.
not, no, I wasn't nursing babies. I was just up in between checking on babies because they were like, Sephora was a couple years old, I think, at the time. And so I was just like constantly at that point. I'm trying to
So do you
remember.
write in the dark or with the lights on then at night?
Well, I've recently discovered that I do better creatively wise at night, and and this is really weird. I'm I'm a multitasker, but I'm a proficient multitasker because I do better at night when the lights are off and I'm in between playing video games.
Mm.
So I will be playing a video game. I might be playing Destiny or Fortnite, where in between matches or in between like whatever you're doing, I'll be writing. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like last night, I was playing with friends, and I was like, hey, if I'm talking to myself in the mic, it's because I'm literally reading these notes out. I'm like deep diving into the episode we just did prior to this one, and putting out some of the details of that author we went over. So for me, dark. I do like to have a drink. Last night I had 7 Up, zero, 7 Up. And then this morning when I was writing stuff, I had my cold brew, which okay, side note, the Spot sells their own roasted coffee now.
Hmm.
So I ordered some and I could actually have it sent to my house and I made my own cold brew. And this morning was my first time able to drink my cold brew from the stuff because I let it set in the cold brew maker thing for
Hmm.
like 24 hours. So good.
So it tastes like what you remember.
Well, yeah, but when I was in Ohio originally, they had another company that did their beans and stuff. Like they bought like wholesale from
Hmm.
this company, but now they roast their own. So it's actually the
Oh,
spots. Yeah, they have like a coffee guru guy there that helps create these recipes, and they have like I think four or I don't
that's
know, a lot of
crazy.
different blends. Yes. So I ordered mine and I got mine in the mail the other day. So I got 3 bags of coffee and I made my cold brew. And so this morning I had my delicious cold brew from the Spot on Main.
You're gonna
So
be placing a
that I like my
lot of orders from
coffee.
Jackson, Ohio.
Hmm. I like my coffee. And then I snack constantly. I love
Yeah,
snacking. But honestly, I like to sit in my environment here. Like I have my corner desk, and that's where I like to kind of be most productive. If I get too relaxed, then I sleep. I'll take a nap. So I
yeah.
have to be sitting up. I have to, yeah. So I can't be like you and snuggle into a chair or
Hmm.
something. I can't do that. I have to be kind of like in almost like a working mode, but mostly at night is when I'm
I
better.
think it's because when I write, I don't really feel like I'm working.
Right.
When
But
I'm in that
for me,
moment, it's like I'm watching Netflix or something.
yeah, but that's how I get relaxed. So I can't be in a relaxed position or I won't do it. It's weird. I know.
That's
So,
okay. Everybody's different.
you choose the next question, sir.
So how do you stay inspired when you're not feeling creative?
How do I stay inspired when I'm music?
Okay.
I list so I have a soundtrack on. Let me pull this up here. I have a soundtrack on soundtrap. Essentially, I have a playlist called Canvas Soundtrack on here, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I click that little thing. I listen to it when I'm driving. I listen to it when I just need more extra like feels for the writing. And each song has something to do with the energy in the book. So that's how I kind of get more inspired and think, oh yeah, oh yeah. Or when I'm walking, I will think of things in my head. So typically music and walking. What about you?
Netflix. I mean, if I'm bored with it, I'll walk away. And not that I'm plagiarizing, but if I'm writing a horror fantasy, I'll thumb through Netflix and find something that's similar,
Mm,
just to put me back in that world. Like, okay,
I can
I'm
feel
not
that.
bored with it, and there might be a scene that inspires me, and again, I don't copy, but it's like something goes off in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm excited again. Let me get in there, and then I'll write for hours.
Well, I actually can relate to that as far as I recently watched that Warrior Nun on
Hmm.
Netflix. It has nothing to do with my storyline, but it was in the same supernatural wheelhouse. So I was like, oh, it inspires you to feel that genre again. I get that. I can get
Yep.
on board with that with you. So you need to start watching some Netflix and get inspired so you can kind of finish Age of the Sigil, right? You know this is a theme.
Yeah, I know. I'll pick some fan. I'll get out of Walking Dead and switch over to fantasy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Um, did I answer this question? I had to answer this question. Yeah,
Yep.
music. And you said,
Yeah, you did. I
yes, yeah,
think. Yeah, because I asked you.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I was like, what was I on? So, anyways, all right. What is the most surprising thing you've learned about storytelling through your writing journey?
That, for me, it's like therapy.
Hmm.
I never thought when the most surprising thing is when I finish, I can't believe I'm admitting this, when I finish a novel,
Hmm.
I'm really freaking depressed.
I
Yeah, I
could
feel like
hear.
the characters have died and I've lost them. I'm not going to see them anymore. And I moved on. And I get the same thing when I watch a really good show and it's to the last episode. I'm like, what? That's it? So never in my life did I think that I would get so involved that those characters felt like family or like children. And then I was losing them. They were moving away or something like that. I didn't think it would be that emotional.
So I can similarly relate, and that would probably be very similar to my answer, as I didn't realize storytelling when you're so when I'm reading a book, you the characters come to life with good reading, and you're like you feel the connection
Yep.
that the author has given you. But when you write the characters, I did not realize how real they are in your head.
Yeah.
How real these characters become to where I still can like feel the characters from Crystal Gate and how they resonate with you and
I mean,
their
yeah,
personalities.
you could for me I could hear what their voice sounds like. I could see wrinkles on their face,
Mhm.
the way they
How they
laugh.
would react, yeah, how they would react in a situation.
Yeah, and I would know like I'm writing I'm like, yeah, Pim the Knife would never do that. And
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, no, 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 scratch that. So,
Yes, yes. So yeah, that would be I would agree. My storytelling has opened my eyes to how you can bring life to something. So, and this is not a question I have on here, but this is something I'm going to add to this question as a follow up. So, since you know that it brings life to them, do you feel like you have like a certain duty to make sure you do them right, like almost like a responsibility for that character?
oh, absolutely. Even the bad ones,
Yeah.
because you don't, I mean, there's stuff I won't dive into and I actually leave it alone. Like, why is this character so freaking evil? Why do they not have a
Hmm.
a conscience? But it could be I don't know how they were their upbringing. I don't let my creative mind dip back in time if it's not to that story. So yeah, but also if they're that evil, I also feel like it's my duty to make sure they pay for
It's
it.
paid. Yeah. Are they evil enough?
Yes, yeah, I think they're yeah, you're dead. So
And that's a good point, because I feel like, so we are a type of personality, but do you have a responsibility to make sure that every single character is not the same. You have to make them distinctively different. Like, you are evil, this is how you talk, this is how you do. You got to keep it real with them and not make them blend into, like, oh, you're almost starting to sound like this character. And I know even Rich said, like, oh, this character wouldn't have this, so I make sure I handed him this sawed off shotgun in one
Yeah.
of your books. um Making sure it stays true to the character development. So
Yep.
yeah. All right, what's your next question, sir?
So let me think here. If you could write in any genre that you haven't yet explored, what would it be?
If I could write in any genre, because I wrote in nonfiction and I wrote in, of course, I do supernatural. But I feel like if I could write fantasy, that would be great. I don't know if I could be so creative with the world building. Like,
Hmm.
there's a huge responsibility for creating new worlds. And I think it'd be really cool to do it, because I would love, or I guess, love to design the sets and the mapping and all the stuff in a fantasy world, because I love fantasy watching it.
Hmm.
But writing it's totally different. You know what I mean? So I think fantasy would probably be the one genre that I would want to skip over and, like, try out if I had the choice.
You know, I don't know if there would. I feel like I hit everything.
Because you've done a lot of them.
Yeah,
Pretty
I've
much
done,
all of
but
them.
I guess if I
Or
could, but
poetry.
then the weird thing is I would write a Western, but it would have to be kind of sci-fi Western.
What,
It has to be
isn't there
paranormal or
already, like,
sci-fi.
cowboys and aliens or something like that?
Yeah, but there is, but it could be cowboys and ghosts or something. It would just have to have something in it for me because I'm so into that realm with sci-fi and fantasy. It could be, this guy's revenging, this sheriff's revenging that killed his family, and he finds this mystical gun, and he never has to load it. It's got endless
And here
bullets.
you are back in the same genre, though. So
I
you know what I
know,
mean?
so that's what's hard for me. I
It's not the
literally,
fact that you have to do it. It's what genre, if you could do it. So a western would be technically, so like a
I don't know if I could
modern
though.
western.
I don't know. I don't know if I could because I've written everything. I would screw it up because it'd have to have a magical gun, or he'd have to be bulletproof, or he could fly. I don't know. It would be something. He would be like Kill Shot or one of those superheroes. He could like boing boing. He could shoot anyone. You don't even have to see him. It's like
Oh, there
bullseye.
you go. You could do a graphic novel.
Yes.
There's a genre. You could be in graphic novels and you could put some of your stories to life with images
That
and
yeah. That's
small
that's.
conversations.
Thank you for giving me that cop out because that's the only way I could answer that question.
So if you could swap lives with any author for a day, who would it be and what would you hope to experience?
I
Terry
know
Brooks?
you think I'm going to say Terry Brooks. Let me make sure I always mess up her name because she's got three names. Let
Oh
me.
yeah, the one. Yeah, I know who you're talking about because
Yeah.
you've talked about her before.
Yeah, Cinda Williams Chima. I got to remember CWC. Mainly because her books are kind of they're fantasy, modern day fantasy. Like one series, wizards and warriors and people who can, control dragons. But it was like in one of her books, she came down to Ironton, Ohio. So, I mean, I would like to. I want to call her out, Cinda. I'm sorry. The one I love, love, love everything she's written. From one series is way back, and then one's modern. I love everything she's done. But in the one series, when she comes to Ironton, I'm like, you didn't do your homework because that's not where the courthouse sets. That's not how you would get into it. So I'm like a stickler for that. Like when I've written books, like even Kill Factor, and we're over like in Helsinki, Finland or something, I get on Google Earth and I find a street and I find a building. So when I place my character there and he's hiding, he can slip down like this little side entrance where there's some shadows. And I made sure it was meticulous, that it was exact, it was correct. So that little spot drove me nuts. So, but I would ask her, like, wow, how did you know how your world building's incredible? I love it. How did you come up with this? But then I would also be like, come on, Chima, fix that for me. It's driving me nuts.
Well, maybe it worked out for the storyline that it had to be like a block away.
Yeah, but I know it probably did, but still it drove me nuts.
All right. So I'm answering the same question. If I could be in another author,
Terry Brooks. Yep.
honestly, it would probably be Dan Brown again, because I'd say he's probably my favorite author. Even though I talk about Stephanie Meyer a lot, author wise, I would say I like Dan Brown's writing more because I've not ever had a challenge with any of his books and reading any of his books except for like I think it was the Lost Symbol, like the last 25 pages. I was like, okay, this is pointless. But other than that, the story was pretty good. Um, but for the most part, I've not had many challenges with reading his books. I haven't read anything for a long time, but I've been writing for so much that I don't like to read fiction when I'm writing fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would say with him, and what I would like to figure out with if I'm swapping places, the experience I would like to have is his ability to write chapters that are so descriptive but not super long. He does a great job of like pulling the story along. Short chapters, keeping dialogue, making it descriptive enough that I feel like I'm there, but not overly descriptive where I'm like, oh my gosh, forever, let's go. So yeah, that would probably be the experience I want to have is get in his mind and learn how he does that.
And I knew you would say Dan Brown. I threw you off in the Terry Brooks. I did that on purpose. So,
Well, I do remember you talking about the Chima lady because you
yep.
mentioned her in a previous episode. So I
Yeah,
do
no,
remember
she's
saying you
wonderful.
liked her.
And she's from Ohio, so.
All right. What is another question? I think we have just a couple more on here. Oh, yes, number 8.
Okay. Is it my turn to ask you or are you asking me?
You're asking me, I think, because I
Okay.
just asked you about swapping for a day.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to choose number 8. I want to choose number 5.
Okay, fine.
If you could time travel to any period in literary history, when would you go and what would you want to learn?
Oh, so it definitely would be in literary history. It would definitely be during the Renaissance, or even the medieval time of like magic and things like that. Because I would want to be with the witches and the warlocks and the wizards and all that stuff in history, like fictional history. We're not talking about historical history. We're talking about literary
Fictional,
history.
yeah.
So when these things were created, yeah, I would want to be a part of like some of that. Development of these characters.
Yeah,
Like
man, it's tough. I don't know which one to choose because I think about my series Shifters and I'd want to go back to the times of the pyramids and see how they were made,
mhm.
based on the shifter abilities and all that. But also, I kind of want to jump ahead thousands of years into Phoenix Earth because I love knowing they had a base on the moon and we had destroyed the Earth, but it was starting to come back, and I'd want to see how it's reflourishing and coming back into existence.
Mm. Well,
So,
there's a show I'm watching on Netflix called Travelers. It's got 3 seasons,
yep.
and they are futuristic people coming back, and it's interesting. I've only made it into like maybe 6 or 7 episodes, but it kind of opens up. I'm not really giving any kind of spoiler away because it opens up into you're this person and it says recorded time of death and it's a countdown. You're like, oh, someone's gonna die. So it goes through all these people recorded time of death and it's ticking down 3, 2, 1, and then they have this almost like a brain aneurysm, just like where their brains just like and then all of a sudden they're fine. But it's in history that's when they died at that very point. So someone in the future transmits a conscience into that person right before they die, so that way
Hmm.
their body physically stays alive. So it doesn't change up their timeline because they were going to die anyway, so they're not affecting the life. But it's kind of cool. But they're
Yep.
trying to they have all these missions. They're trying to prevent the end of the world and prevent the future from happening how it
You're
is. So
just telling me about another show I've seen. I haven't watched it yet, and it's just I'll get hooked on that, and then I'll be later on starting Sigil. So I got to get it out of my mind.
Yeah, don't
All
watch
right.
fiction.
Next question.
Watch yeah, go read Age of the Sigils if you're like
Yeah,
you did recently
I
did read it,
did. I
right?
read them all, made all my notes, and it's sitting there waiting for me. It's just stupid stuff. I have no
Mm,
excuse.
zero excuses.
All right. Question
I'm
number
with you.
8.
If you heard that today on the podcast, Jamie has no excuses not to finish Age of the Sigil.
Yeah,
You
I
know
think
what?
I've said that many times. My
Uh,
excuse is I have no excuse.
right. This has definitely been repeated multiple times
Yep.
because I'm pretty sure I hear it when I'm editing so many times.
Take it out. I done heard it. Done heard it.
Hmm. All right. So now, number 8. Who is your favorite antagonist in fiction, and what makes them compelling to you?
Uh, there's this. Oh, yeah. The Void. It's funny because I'll reference, even though like the word in the void from Terry Brooks, I actually use the void as one of my characters in Age of the Sigil. And this antagonist is really, it's not good or not evil. It just is.
Like
It's
an
part of the
anti-hero?
earth. Do what?
Oh, like just an anti-hero type thing where
It's
it's not
kind, yeah. So wait a minute, antagonist. You mean like,
the but so I was the questions about the antagonist in your book, but you were talking about the void, and I was like, is the void kind of like an anti-hero where it's not good, it's not bad, it's
yes, yeah,
yeah.
but still, because its job is, you have yin and yang, so its job is, to balance it out. So here's Australia or Austrian is thriving, but now the void is leaking through, and forests are dying and all this, and it is created. It comes together in energy, and it's like this mud creature, and I don't know
I think there's
something.
something like that in Sabrina the Teenage Witch too, where it's kind of like there's this void. They may even call it the void,
Oh,
or
really?
or something very similar, but it's where it's starting to leak over because it's supposed to be the most neutral thing, but it's trying to take over of good and
I
evil.
bet you she read my book and they stole that idea.
Oh, like you read Terry Brooks' book and used the same thing and
Yeah,
stole it
well,
from him?
but his void is not the same as mine. I just used the name in honor of him. So, but people are trying to control the void, good and bad, to put it
Mm-hmm.
back in place, and others are trying, this evil Vassar, like a king who is also a wizard, is like trying to set it loose so he can control the people. But then to realize it's a force of nature,
Mm-hmm.
so all you're doing is making trouble for yourself. So I don't know why I feel sorry for it, but I do. It just wants to be.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Not a good answer, but that's my answer.
Interesting. I'm sitting here trying to think of who the antagonist that I personally, because I would have to go into, um, hmm, I don't know, maybe the Illuminati would be really cool in the
Hmm.
Dan Brown books, because it's this unseen force. Uh, but at the same time, um, I think of like some of the characters in, oh my gosh, C.S. Lewis's book. Um, do I have that on my shelf?
Oh,
Where is
see,
it?
I was thinking my writing. Yeah, I could
Well,
get it.
there's a Mere Christianity from C.S. Lewis. I read this a long time ago, and there's Wormwood. So Wormwood is writing essentially the devil,
Hmm.
um, and basically letters to the devil and talking about what's going on. And I can't remember. I literally, it's been so long since it's probably been 25 years since I read this thing, but I remember enjoying that because it was like the letters from these entities that work under the devil sending him letters about what's going on. And I like that because it's not really an antagonist, but it is in a sense it's an antagonist to human
Hmm.
nature. And so I liked how that was a take on how darkness interacts with the devil, essentially. So I don't know, but then I also have a character Azure in Crystal Gate. He is a minion of the devil, and it's always this running theme. I feel like sometimes it's you're rooting for the bad guy, but there's this minion in the devil's wheelhouse that kind of questions him and his decision making, and it begins to start softening to some of the ideas that are happening, and then like seeing that everything's to come to pass that was already prophesized. So it's kind of like, oh, this was supposed to happen. So and maybe that character too. So those would be the two characters I would think of.
Yeah, I guess if I had to step outside my own writing, Fendo Gask from the book Angel Fire East and the Word and Void trilogy from Terry, because he's a demon. Like demons finally started walking Earth, but he's a man demon because they kind of morphed, and he's
Right.
really controlling a lot more evil demons. Like he's setting everything in motion and trying to kill this young girl who was half human, half demon, but she's good. And so we can see how he's manipulating all these people and leading up to where she becomes pregnant, but it's like the birth of Christ. It was a gypsy morph had in she was protecting this little you can only call it a gypsy morph. It's like a fairy type creature,
Mhm.
and Fendo was trying to kill it, and she's trying to protect it. And then, but he was kind of off. And then when he realized this little baby that she'd found, like 3-year-old, and he called her mama. And then Fendo was coming to kill her, and he hugged her, and he absorbed into her, and she became pregnant with what would be uh, another child in the future that was going to
Wait,
save the
is that like
Earth.
asexual reproduction here? What the heck?
Yeah, it was like yeah, there was nothing like that involved, but it was like yes, and then he couldn't. She had so much power in her from the gypsy morph that he ended up, she was able to get him away, and he almost died and all that.
I guess that wouldn't be
So
asexual reproduction.
it wouldn't be. It's almost like immaculate conception or something. He just turned into like ether, and then this little light went inside of her, and then she was pregnant, and she was going to give birth to a child that would later on was for another trilogy. And then but Fendo was really the beginning of the demons coming to Earth, like right before the apocalypse happened and all that. So
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. All right. So let's see here. The last one we have here is a creative writing prompt that inspired you on your writing journey. So if you could come up with a creative writing prompt, what would it be?
you mean like a prompt for AI or just something to inspire people to write?
If you could create a new writing prompt that has been inspired by your writing journey, what would it be?
Whew, I don't even know. I don't even know how to answer that.
I know it's kind of like a weird question.
Yes. Okay.
I would put in there.
Yeah, you go first because I'm lost.
No, I'm about you. Be like how to not write a book in 30 years.
Oh, yeah, if it's something like that, yeah. Yeah, how to
Yeah.
not get your book done.
How to not finish a book.
I guess if I was to do a writing prompt, it would be how to let the story unfold. I would literally turn on an audio recorder, and in like a minute, I would try to come up with 10 endings. Like I'm starting it, so boom, 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 off the top of your head. You're not even thinking about it. You just let it fly. You don't even remember. You go back and listen. You're like, aha, okay. So I thought I was stuck and I didn't have no outlet, and here I just spit out 10, but I really like 2 of them, so maybe I'll go with that. Because a lot of people, and I know you talk about writer's block, and that's where they get. They're like, I don't know what to write now. Well, because you're trying, to me, it'd be like you're trying to control that story. Just let it flow.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it go and not control it. I never control it anyway. Like when we were talking to Jay Willis, he's got to plot everything out. I just can't do that. I
Yeah.
fly with
Well,
it.
'cause
So
that's because you're more of a prancer.
yep,
So that makes sense. I guess for me,
I'm more of a Rudolph. It's my nose. I
yeah,
thought you said Prancer, so I just
I did say prancer.
but it's Pantser, right?
Oh, it's Panther. You're right. I was
Yeah.
thinking of Rudolph and all the reindeer.
Okay.
Panther. Whatever.
All right.
Mine would be. I guess my writing prompt would be how to if I could about my writing journey because my writing journey was unexpected. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess my writing journey would be or my writing prompt would be the unexpected and because all these things that come to me they're completely unexpected and completely like out of left field. I'm like, oh, but wait, I don't know that this it's one of those
It's a
I might
tough
have
question. Yeah.
it's a very tough question. So I don't know.
But
I
I
think
think of it because it's like a new. I'm like, whew, how am I going to think of? What can I think of new? I should have just spit 10 ideas out when I would have stuck.
although I do have an idea. And it's interesting because a week ago, I told my family, I text one of my daughters and said, hey, if you see me not writing and getting distracted, call me out on it. You know,
Yep.
say, how's the book coming? Told my husband the same thing. If you see me distracted or like doom scrolling, just make sure you call me out on it. I just want to write Canvas today. And I had so many interruptions in the day. Like I didn't get to write as much as I wanted to, even though it was like stuff I had to do. It was just kind of like it didn't really pan out. Well, then the next day, in the back of my mind, I'm going to show you this after this episode. I literally was like, oh, I want to write this book about my grandma, but I don't have to do the writing. I just had to design the book cover and I just had to tell my stories. But I reached out to my mom and my aunts and I reached out to my cousins and everybody's like, oh, I love this idea. And everybody tell their story. And I gave them prompts. I'm like, tell me your favorite memory of grandma. Tell me, because she passed away last spring.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your favorite recipe. Tell me your worst story of her. Maybe she yelled at you, or maybe the one that whatever. Just give me these stories. And so everybody's like, yeah, I'll work on that. So, everybody's kind of working on that. I don't have to do any of the writing. I just develop the book covers and put my own stories in there. And my husband and my daughter were like, well, you told us to keep you on point and da-da-da. I'm like, but I'm not even doing it. Like I was so defensive because I was like, I wanted to I spent the morning making 3 book covers and instead of actually writing, and they were calling me out on it, which I asked them to do, but I asked them the day before. So this is a whole new day. So it didn't count. Distraction day was over. I was allowed to do that today.
Now, do you think you were doing that to avoid writing, or just that creative hit you?
That creative hit me. That's how it
Yeah.
works. I was just like, oh, I've got to
Yeah,
get
I mean,
it's
I can
there and I've got to
understand
get it out.
if you wouldn't have got it out, then you might not have had those ideas. So,
And how many times do we tell people when it's in there, just write it?
yep.
So I have different flows of creativity, and the book covers were in my head. I'll send you the covers, and you can tell me which one you like. Because I've
Cool.
already got everybody else voting. But that was kind of one of those points where it was like, I was in a creative mode, and I wanted to do that. So, but anyways, well, this has
I
been
dig
fun.
it. Yep.
It was so fun interviewing you, sir. Thank you for coming on
Yeah,
and being
now
an
people know a
author.
little bit more about me. I get
Yeah.
emotional when my books are done.
And we'll have to have you back on my podcast whenever you're finished with that book. What was it called again?
The ones about aliens and mermaids.
Yeah. Age
Oh,
of the
Age of the
Sigil.
Sigil. Yes.
Yeah. We'll
Yes.
have you back.
So
We'll have you back on for another
2027,
interview.
2028.
No, remember we're in competition. Who's going to finish first?
That's
Candace
true.
or Age of the
Willow.
Sigil? Willow.
She's going to
Willow's going to be
finish
done
first.
first. She's already got her books edited and she's going to be releasing before us.
Uh,
All right.
yep.
All right, if you want to follow us for more quirkiness, go to alwayswritepodcast.com. Click on those little icons. Follow us on all our socials, even though we only post on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. You can go to all of the ways that we put out our podcast, which is Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube. So you can go and subscribe and follow all of those. If you want to have a podcast episode you'd like to see or hear, you can go to our email, which is alwayswritepodcast@gmail.com, and we will be happy to get back to you as long as Jamie doesn't read the emails,
True.
which you haven't done in a while.
I'm getting better at it.
Thank you.
If I had a little unread button, it wouldn't be an issue.
You know that's on there, right?
You have to show me because I can't find it.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I'm doing it from my phone.
No, because I do everything from my phone, so it's on there. But
Okay.
I'll show you. All right. But anyways, thank you for
We'll do a
listening to our
podcast about
interview
it.
with each other. Until next time, I'm author Karisa DeLay.
I'm author Jaime Vendera, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Until then, always write.